This is the Nightshade Cult, a podcast macabre.
We bid you welcome, enter freely and of your own will.
I'm Nick Grimm.
And I'm David Graves.
And we'll be your horror hosts for this dissection of Danny Boyle's post-apocalyptic coming-of-age folk horror 28 years later.
Good evening.
I didn't say the year. It's this year. This is a brand new movie.
We just saw it, and
Yeah.
we're going to have a spoiler-filled conversation about this movie. We're going to kind of talk through all the different aspects and elements of it, and if you've seen the movie, this would be a good companion. If you're thinking about seeing the movie and you are the type that likes spoilers like me, this would be a good listen as well.
Yeah, I was going to I actually went as far as to message a couple of the loyal cultists and be like, don't listen to tomorrow's episode until you go see the movie.
I like spoilers. I don't know.
They help you prepare.
Well, and there's I don't know, I was reading something online where it says there's a large percentage of people actually enjoy knowing what's going to happen because I don't know, there's something about it psychologically. It's common.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. There definitely are people that like it. And I think you can forget. You can know and then still be surprised. Like, it doesn't ruin it for you. Whereas I feel like when I know what's coming, some of my joy has been robbed from the experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, different strokes.
Yeah.
And
do as you will when you hear this warning.
Exactly, yeah. And we're mentioning what we're going to do in this episode because we have a lot of people listen to this podcast on YouTube for a few minutes. Yeah. And normally we are just sort of rambling about what we've been up to or what our history with this thing. So I just want to let everybody know this is a conversational podcast where we're going to go through this movie normally with a fine-tooth comb, but this is more like a hot take because it's brand new. We normally do older movies where we can watch them multiple times, read the book if there's a book, watch interviews with the director. This one, a little more like we saw this 2 days ago, collected our thoughts, and now we're recording. Yeah,
I was thinking I have not had as much time to sit with it as I normally would. But I think I've still... It's a thinker, and so it's been heavy on my mind since we saw it.
Yeah, and I talked to a few friends online who have seen this, and this is a divisive movie, I'd say. Yeah. Because some people were like gushing about it, about how amazing it was, how it was like a master class on this and that, and then other people didn't like how it felt like three stories and how some of the symbolism was served up to you, force-fed to you, you might say.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting, divisive movie. I'm glad that this is Danny Boyle and Alex Garland together again. They did not do 28 weeks later. They did 28 days later. Yeah,
they were just credited as executive producers on that. And I was watching a YouTube video of Alex Garland kind of going through his filmography, and he described 28 weeks later as being a cynically made film. Yeah. Like, essentially, well, that one made a lot of money, so let's do another one. And he's like, okay, I'll take that check.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, understandable.
And this is doing fine. It was made for $60 million. It's only been out, 5 days, 6 days? I don't know.
This past weekend was the second weekend.
Okay. So it's been out a little more than a week. So, and it's already over $100 million. So it's doing fine. It's doing great.
That is, what they always say, double the budget, double the production budget is what you need to make to break even.
And this will easily do that.
Yes, it already has. Yeah. So, and from here on out, you're going into profit territory.
Yeah. So these guys are good boys for the studio. They're going to be happy.
The second film is already in the can. And I think that's supposed to come in January.
Yeah, I was reading about that. How that one's done, and this is the financial success of this one determines whether or not a third one gets made. Right. And so it will get made.
Yeah, it does seem like it. And the third one is the Cillian Murphy comeback movie.
Oh, okay.
So he was credited as executive producer on this.
Yeah, he did some advising and discussing. He was part of the creative team for this trilogy.
And I think his character is probably introduced in the next film in a similar way to how Jack O'Connell's character is introduced in this film, and then is going to be a major player in the third film.
Yeah, so this is I mean, I guess 28 weeks later being sort of removed. I'm not going to say it's not canonical, but it's not Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
This is a whole ass franchise.
It is now. Yeah, it is. It's kind of weird how late they're getting to enjoy the fruits of their labor with this.
Yeah.
Because obviously when you watch 28 Days Later, you're like, oh, this is The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
You know, and The Last of Us obviously takes heavily from this franchise, and just the original film was so influential, but they didn't own it until now. The part of why this movie got made is the rights reverted to them from Fox and the previous holders.
Nice.
And this put them in the power position where it's their property. So they're not going to Fox and saying, we'd like to revisit that movie we made that you own.
Yeah.
They're like, do you want to make another movie with us? Because we've got a trilogy planned. And Sony took them up on it.
Yeah, I think anybody would do that if you had the money. It seems like an easy yes.
Yeah, and
bankable.
We've talked about over the last several episodes the profitability of horror movies.
Yes.
How it doesn't cost much to make them, and they always make money.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about making horror movies is it doesn't require a huge star power name.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some great actors in this movie.
Yeah.
But there, you didn't have, it's not like Christian Bale's not in this movie.
Yeah.
You don't have Tom Cruise.
Yeah. No proper movies. Aaron Taylor Johnson's knocking on movie star.
Yeah.
But he still has not quite.
Ralph Fiennes is pretty well known.
Ralph?
Well, I was watching online, and it seems like some people call it say Rafe, and some people say Ralph. I don't know.
He says Rafe.
Okay, well, I didn't watch one with him.
Yeah.
So Rafe. Sorry about that, homie.
It is spelled Ralph.
Yeah.
To be fair.
and I'm an American. So.
Yeah. Okay, Ralph. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about what we do at the beginning, because as David alluded to, there's been new people coming into the feed, and we kind of just take it as a given that you know what we're doing, and you've listened to every single episode.
Oh, yeah.
And every episode of our older podcast, and you're steeped in our lore, and we don't have to explain this stuff to you. So
yeah, at this point for us, we're like almost not quite 200 episodes of podcasting in.
Yeah.
Even though this is episode 45 of this podcast, we've got a lot of people that have kind of come along with us. But we realize that given the way that YouTube works, there's probably a lot of people who are just showing up, and that's great. And I say a lot, not randomly, but that's just literally what the analytics show us, that several hundred people are listening, and for us that's big deal. We're no Joe Rogan. A few hundred people listening is pretty cool, especially when there's new people every time.
Right. Yeah, we have wallowed in obscurity for several years now with about 50 core people.
I would say 50 people per episode, hardcore.
Yeah.
But YouTube has kind of breathed some life into this algorithm.
So this is, in the spirit of that, this is the point where we usually run a little music and then come back with our dissection. 28 years after the outbreak of the rage virus, the British Isles are a restricted quarantine zone where a young man must undergo a harrowing rite of passage.
This is a really stripped back storyline, and I really like that. I really like how they basically made this movie a movie about people in a really interesting sci-fi horror setting.
Yeah.
It's not a movie about zombies. Just like when The Walking Dead was just first coming out or whatever, there's going to be parallels. It's important to make the distinction. That is a show about people. There are zombies around that provide hardship, but it is really a show about the dynamics of people.
Yeah, and it's a coming of age drama.
Yep.
It's a meditation on grief. It's a family movie.
Yeah.
With
Not to say this is for you and your kids. This is a story about a family.
Yes, exactly. It is a story about families, but you should probably wait till your kids are at least as old as little Spike, 12 years old.
Yeah, I was going to say PG-13 seems about right.
Yeah, well, this is ours, so...
Yeah, but if you're there with your kids and, and you trust them...
Oh, my family would have showed me this movie.
Some zombie violence. Oh, yeah, I watched Predator when I was a little kid.
And this has that. This has the pulling out head and spinal column.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the Predator. So returning from 28 days later, we've got director Danny Boyle... and writer Alex Garland also coming back. This is under visuals, but is cinematographer Anthony Dodmantle.
All right. So, Cultists, if you are fresh off listening to our last episode where I took a fairly steaming pile on 28 Days Later, I'm just going to tell you I liked this better.
Really? Okay. I mean, I also did like this movie better. But I still like that one quite a bit. And I don't think you took a steaming pile on the third act
at the end. Yeah, when a third of the movie is shit, then there you go. And especially if it's the last third. It can't be the first or the last third.
That is the unfortunate thing. If it's the first third, you won't make it through it.
Yeah.
And if it's the last third, it's It's the taste in your mouth when you leave. But
this movie, we get to our review section after we analyze the different parts of the movie. But I'm just telling you, there are no terrible parts of this movie.
No.
There's some nitpicks that I have because I nitpick a lot of things. But ultimately, I actually pretty much enjoyed this.
Yeah. Structurally, it's an interesting movie. It's a movie in two halves, and it has a prologue and an epilogue.
I could see that.
So that is... It has sort of four tones.
Yes.
I like that, but it's ambitious and it is going to be hard. I think some people, like you talked about it being divisive, some people have a hard time changing gears like that.
Yeah.
And to change four times is jarring.
I really enjoyed the coming of age, the father and son going out. He's Spike and his dad Jamie are leaving the island. They're on this isolated island off the coast of Northumbria, right?
Yeah.
And they've got
Holy Island is what the name of it is.
All right, Holy Island, and they've got a little community there. They've got farmers. They've got everybody They got a nice little communism going on, and that
is the natural state. Just be real about it. Communal living is the natural state of humanity.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too wonky, the government style that they're doing there is called it's generally called a big man structure, which means it's like Native Americans, Mongols, Aborigines.
Tribal.
It's the default human organization where you have a decision maker, but everyone has value. And then if you don't have value, you're pushed out. This is the default human standard. And that's what they have. They have basically a tribal government there. Yeah. They have a leader, this lady who's a wise woman, and then there's like a council of advisors that advise her.
Yeah.
And then they have everyone has a role, everyone has a job. And they have this coming of age ritual that everybody does. It seems to be the boys. I don't know if girls do it too.
Yeah, we don't get a whole lot about roles for the girls. Although you do, like you pointed out, the leader of their community is a woman.
Yeah.
But it does seem like the women stay home and tend the hearth fire.
There were girls in the archery practice, and there were, but yeah, I mean, they did seem to sort of go to those gender-based division of labor, like the food prep, the farming.
They have gone into like a medieval system.
Yeah, and they really hammer you with that by showing clips of medieval societies.
Henry V is the movie that they're sampling.
Yeah, so they have this coming of age ritual where a father takes his son and they leave Holy Island and they go to the mainland because there's a causeway that you can walk across at low tide.
Yeah,
and they walk across, and the idea is that you use your bow and you kill an infected, and then you are a man.
Yeah.
And Lil Spike is 12. The leader of the village says, yeah, we normally would think you should do this like at 15.
Yeah.
But Jamie, the dad, he's like, nah, Spike's ready. He's good.
He's pushing for this. He wants to get the boy out there.
Yeah. And I actually really, really enjoyed that act, that whole trip out and back. That was a highlight for me. Because it felt like the road.
Yeah.
It felt like stories I like travel logs. It was interesting.
Yeah. And it's, most of what you see in the trailers is from that first part of the film. And so it's where the movie is giving you what you're expecting. And I think it is, you can kind of see, Jamie, for all what's good about him and his shortcomings are very clear. Like, he's doing his damn best to raise this boy. While wife is sick at home with a kind of an unknown ailment.
Yeah.
But he is pushing the kid kind of past what he's ready for. And, like you can kind of see where he's fucking up.
Yeah, he probably should have let Spike season a little bit more. Yeah. And Jamie is, one of the more skilled warriors, archers, in the community. He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, and it's I love how nuanced it is because Jamie is not a total bastard in any way. You can always understand where he's coming from, and he wants the best. Like none of his shortcomings are vindictive. They're all sort of based on doing what he thinks the kid needs.
Yeah, he definitely means well, but does some things that don't land right.
Yeah, like real people. Like that's
absolutely.
I just thought all of them, all our core people, are just like beautifully written, flawed, real sort of people. Like,
yeah, for sure. I definitely think he's a really good character. I guess part of as far as the writing that I really liked about this, I thought that it was interesting how they kind of evolved the world building.
Yeah.
With how the rage virus is acted over the last 28 years, how you have you have the big fat ones that kind of crawl along
the
and
slow-lows.
Eat worms and stuff. And then you have the alpha, who's kind of like a hyper-evolved one.
Yeah. Like 7 foot tall guys hanging dong and, and leading
like Nosferatu.
And leading packs of other infected.
Yeah. And it's pretty cool. It seems like a really wild place.
It definitely has shades of I Am Legend, which is a novella, I think, but it's been adapted into movies like 3 times. Once with Vincent Price, then Charlton Heston in The Omega Man, and then Will Smith in I Am Legend, where what the character, the I Am Legend character, realizes by the end is, this world is theirs, and I'm the monster. I'm going out and killing them, where they're just living their lives. I'm the relic of the past, essentially. And this whole, like, when they go out there hunting them to kind of prove their manhood, it just made me think of that, because it's like you're safe. You have everything. You don't need to go do this.
Yeah, they didn't need to leave the you know, I mean, they have to leave to get timber.
Yeah.
And there's a few reasons they have to go, like to harvest some of those elk because there's just huge herds.
Yeah. But you don't need to hunt them.
No.
Yeah. Because they're not actively hunting you at this point.
No, they're just sort of a danger. If you run across them, it's like a tiger, you know?
Yeah. It is exactly like that. And so, like you said, rite of passage, like it's sort of like a tribal thing to go out and hunt a lion, right? Mm-hmm. Even though lions don't hunt people. Lions will sometimes kill people, but that's not something that they're doing.
Yeah, it's not their main deal. Yeah, so it's a really interesting setting, and I like how it's kind of evolved, because in 28 Days Later, that is really just about how empty London is, and it's just these stark visions of a society. Mm-hmm. You know, this really makes you think about things, about how the world has changed in Britain.
Yeah, because they have been just completely quarantined.
Yeah, there are Navy ships from NATO countries all going around, and there's occasionally you see a jet fly overhead.
They're making sure if you're in the United Kingdom and Ireland, you're staying there. No one gets off anymore. It's just too dangerous.
Yeah, this is not subtly commentary on Brexit.
Yes, it is very Brexit. And there's like it's Brexit when we meet Eric, our NATO soldier from Sweden, who ends up stranded on the island with the survivors. But also, like, Holy Island has Brexited from the mainland.
Yeah.
Like, so there's multiple allusions to the Brexit and Britain cutting itself off from the rest of the world, and the rest of the world being like, fine, fuck off.
Yeah.
We're fine without you.
See you later.
Yeah. And generally, I was just listening to an interview with Alex Garland, and he's talking about regressive politics and the looking backwards. When you're talking about, and this is resonant in America as well, making something great again.
Yeah.
It's based on a false memory of what those great times were.
It's rose-tinted glasses from people who didn't live during that time, really.
Yeah, which is what the Henry V footage is all about, is this idealized idea of medieval Europe. Like, those were the good old days.
Yeah.
And not the Dark Ages, like what the textbooks used to call that time period.
Yeah.
Now, what do we call it? We don't call it the...
I mean, Dark Ages is still used sometimes, but usually you'll just call it the Middle Ages.
Yeah, that's less judgy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because then you can't talk, not to get too sidetracked, but that's one thing we do. You can't really compare. If you're like, oh, the Dark Ages of Europe. Well, if Europe is in a dark age and that's what they have there, what do you call those other civilizations in different parts of the world that aren't even at that point? Is it what's less than dark?
Yeah.
Because Europe, despite being no longer as advanced as they were in Rome, like with aqueducts and viaducts and sewer systems and all this stuff, there are still literally Stone Age societies in the world. So judging Europe, what are you saying about the rest of the world?
Yeah, and that is interesting. And I think part of that, though, is that the idea that Europe went backwards.
Yeah,
while the rest of the world is moving forwards on their, and maybe at a different pace and they're different.
Yeah, or just staying how they always were.
Yeah,
because lots of societies pre collision with the freight train of Europe or China basically were unchanged for centuries. Yeah, even millennia.
Because sometimes you find a niche, like an alligator. Alligator is unchanged
or a horseshoe crab. It's perfect.
Yeah, it does the thing that it does perfectly, and it doesn't need to do anything else.
Yeah, there's no evolution required.
Yeah, it could just keep on doing forever.
Yeah, so I think the infected are kind of evolving.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're breeding.
And that's
we learned that.
Yeah, that's the weird thing where the infected are evolving and advancing while the uninfected people are regressing. And then they just sort of they're coming into an equilibrium with each other. Yeah. So let's talk that we talked a lot about the first half of the movie. Then the second half is after Spike's rite of passage. He comes back and he doesn't like his at his little bar mitzvah. He doesn't like the way his dad is kind of bigging up the story and
embellishing all that.
And his dad is not really lying. He's just sort of overselling it in a way that is expected culturally.
Yeah, he's doing the whole braggadocio thing that you come to associate with like British tavern storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. He's doing a very old. I mean, it goes back to the Dark Age.
Yeah, or he's
Viking,
like telling
Viking
the sagas.
Yeah, exactly.
He's literally the saga of Spike is what he's saying.
Yeah, but to Spike, it feels like a lie.
It feels fake, yeah.
Because he's remembering,
I missed the shot.
When he missed the shot, or he shot the guy in the leg instead of in the head, or he was afraid to kill the one that was strung up by the jimmies in the house. Yeah. It's like all the times that he was afraid or paused or fell down, he's remembering all that, and his dad is just glossing over that. And that feels untrue. And then he sees dad stepping out with Rosie, and so it's like, what else? Dad's just, he's just a liar.
He's a scumbag.
And he's an untrustworthy man now. And like, it makes him start questioning things.
Yeah, and it's like when Jamie is stepping out with Rosie, who's a school teacher there in the village. It's like, man, he's like a village hero. He has essentially a bedridden dementia patient wife, and she's kind of like a huge burden to everyone.
Right.
And it's like, man, he should not be stepping out. But I kind of understand it in this story. This doesn't. It makes me feel sad for him. It doesn't make me hate him.
Yes, it is all completely understandable what is going on, and Spike's reaction is completely understandable and valid, because that's how you would feel about it.
Yeah, both of the characters in that situation are very identifiable. I even think that Rosie is identifiable because she's pretty sure that Jamie's wife is dying and she'll be the new wife.
Yeah. And that's,
in that tiny community, that's kind of how it goes.
A virile man with a respected role in the community is as good as you're going to get.
Well, and honestly, like, he's a good looking guy. He's well spoken. He's nice. He treats people well.
Yeah.
I mean, he seems like a decent dude.
Yeah. It is. And it's funny how a guy like Jamie is a big man, an important man in that world, and they're not as big or important in the modern world.
Oh yeah, he would just be some drone.
Yeah, he works on a job site somewhere, and and it is. You can look at that. The people that are looking backwards are looking to a time when they were more important. A lot of the time. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think that's a really good kind of segue into that second half of the movie, I guess, because then Spike decides that because when they're out, they see a big fire, and he asks his dad what it's all about. His dad says he doesn't know, and then when they get back to town, he's asking Sam, who's kind of this uncle type character.
Yes.
He's an older fella who's friends of the family.
Sam he's a Fletcher, and he teaches the kids archery.
So he's kind of a former mentor of Jamie, current mentor of Spike.
Yeah. And he says, "Oh, that's God, it's not Halcyon. What's the guy's name?
It's crazy old.
It's Ralph Fiennes."
Ralph, yeah.
Kelson.
Ian Kelson.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy old Dr. Kelson who went off the deep end years ago.
Yeah.
But he's a real doctor? He was.
Yeah, but no one's talked to him for 15 years.
Yeah, and so Spike hatches a plan. Well, Mom is sick. Nobody knows what's happening with her. She's lucid sometimes. Other times, she's just totally out of it, like almost dementia-like. Then Spike decides, I don't give a shit. Come hell or high water, I'm taking Mom to Crazy Doctor.
Yeah.
And he starts a fire in the village and sneaks out across the causeway with Mom.
Yeah.
Tricks her.
And goes on a second rite of passage.
Yeah, an adventure.
And it is very much like the first one is the rite of passage where you get the lessons from Dad. And the second one is the lessons from Mom, what Mom has to teach. And it's sort of like the two sides, the duality of what you need to be an integrated person, essentially.
Yeah, and you get the impression when she's lucid and when she's like on it that she was probably like a real firecracker of a lady, you know?
Oh yeah, because there's a moment when they hole up in a church, which is a reoccurring theme in these movies.
Yeah,
like people going to the church for sanctuary.
Yeah, because I guess in Britain there are these ancient stone buildings. They're not falling down.
Yeah, and Spike is keeping watch. He's trying to be the man of the house and the protector of his mother.
Yeah,
and he falls asleep.
He falls asleep on guard. That's a dereliction of duty if you're in the military.
Yeah, but he's a 12-year-old boy.
As a court martial.
Yeah, and he falls asleep. And the slow low that they've spared, the child one from the first encounter, comes crawling along, looking for worms, and starts sucking on Spike's bootlace, and crawls up on him, and it looks like it's about to bite him. And then we cut to morning, and it's got a bag over its head, and its skull is caved in. And Spike's like, "What happened?" And Mom's like, "Oh, I don't know." And we get the flashback to Mom, like, sprung into action, old school, cognitive functions kicked back in. She bagged that thing over the head and bashed its head in on a rock.
Yeah, she basically took the sleeping bag stuff sack or whatever it was, put it over the thing's head, and just bam, bam, bam on the side of this, like, altar thing or whatever, stone.
And I thought it was a really interesting parallel between the two parents, because Dad was like, don't look away. Dad was trying to make him hard and show him the things. And like when they find that one that's strung up, Dad's like, you need to kill it.
There's a lesson here for you.
There's a lesson for you to learn. Mom is still trying to protect him because she's like, I don't know what happened to that thing. She doesn't want to, she wants him to stay a little boy.
Yeah.
As long as possible. It's not, I don't think she thinks he's going to stay a little boy forever. Like, I don't think she's deluded in that way.
She wants to ease him into it.
Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning that through this entire these narratives, it's cutting to scenes of the flashbacks of not flashbacks. I would say symbolism to like old movie footage, or there's like World War II soldiers. There's
World War I. I think
and there's that stuff, and then it also cuts to grainy footage as a throwback to 28 Days Later, where they did it on consumer electronics. This time they did it on iPhones.
Yeah, so still on consumer electronics.
Yeah, and of the infected doing their tribal stuff and all of that. It's all kind of interspersed. It's not always relevant to what's happening.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like the parallel story of what are the infected doing right now.
Yeah.
They're just doing live, laugh, love, running around the forest.
We get a lot of night vision stuff, either in like all red or all green of the infected. And that stuff is haunting and
it's pretty grim
and very scary. But then we also get some like daylight shots of them just out like bathing in a stream together and stuff. And it reminded me a lot of the Planet of the Apes movies and the way they portray humans, which have regressed while apes have advanced. Because they have the infected are like primitive hominids, essentially.
Yeah.
They have just
Neanderthal.
What I don't know if what the prevailing theories on.
Yeah, we don't know how they behaved.
Because I've heard you hear it both ways on Neanderthals, either that they were more civilized than the Homo sapiens at the time period, or that they were more savage and blah blah blah. I don't think we really know.
Yeah, we there's no way to know,
or at least I don't. I'm not an expert on this, and I don't want to pretend.
Yeah, I think that this is interesting. Along the way, they meet with a Swedish NATO soldier. Oh, we get a scene, it cuts, and it's like these, tactical geared guys with body armor, and machine guns, assault rifles with burst fire. And basically they're like running around and trying to, I'm like, what's going on here? And then it's explained later.
Yeah.
Once, the Spike and his mother are in they're running from some infected, and they go into this gas station, and they get rescued by a Swedish sailor who was their boat actually hit the rocks, and they got marooned, and now that he's on the island, he can never leave. It's full quarantine forever. And so he's kind of a misfit guy. He's trying to explain, like, you don't know what online is. You don't know it. There are some funny moments, like when he shows Spike a picture of his girlfriend, and Spike's like, "What's wrong with her?"
Like, wait, what are you talking about? She's fucking gorgeous. And he goes, "Oh, I know what that is. There's a girl in our village that's allergic to shellfish, and if she eats scallops, her face swells up like that."
Yeah, because the lady had like lip filler and all this stuff. She looked really worked on.
Yeah.
And Spike just thinks she looks weird. She doesn't look like a woman. She looks like a caricature of a woman.
Yeah, because it is this idea that, Britain has been stuck in amber since 2002. While the rest of the world is in 2020, it wouldn't be 2025. They're even further ahead than, I guess, 2028. No, whatever. I'm not good at math.
Yeah,
they're a few years ahead of us. And culture has moved on, and England has gone backwards.
Yeah, and so then they meet up with Dr. Kynes. No, that would be Dune.
Yeah.
Dr. Kelson.
Yeah.
They meet up with him, and he's actually not crazy. He's crazy, but he's stable crazy.
Yeah. I don't think he's crazy really at all.
He's deeply sentimental, and he expresses it weirdly.
Yeah. Let's touch a few more bases. That before Spike left, his dad kind of copped to. He does know who the fire was.
Yeah, he knows who the doctor is, because Spike says, there's a doctor at that fire, and Jamie's like, how do you know? Did Sam talk?
Yeah.
And
I thought
tells him the story.
It's a very interesting thing, because Jamie, as a young lad out with the boys hunting or whatever, they encountered Kelson out there beginning his great work of building this bone temple.
Yeah.
And he waved to them and kind of beckoned for them to come down, and they turned away and ran, and no one has gone back to see this guy for 15 years. And then when you actually meet him, what he's doing is very sort of sweet and spiritual and balanced,
So on the meta level, you're like, oh, he's creating a great memory for all of the fallen people or whatever, and his sentimentality about remembering their lives and all of that.
Dead, yeah,
I get that. But on the practical level, it's so gross
and scary.
He's boiling the bodies in a pressure cooker tank thing over a fire on a jig so he can move it off and then drain it out into the stream.
Yeah.
And sends all the meat down in a way, and he collects all the bones and cleans them off. And he's building like these big towers of bones and this big giant pile of skulls on the trunks of trees that he's used as the base. So he just ties all the bones to them. And so like on a sentimental level, you're like, okay, he's building a big memorial to them. Because I initially thought when Jamie was telling the story and you're seeing through his eyes at the recollection, they see the doctor and they see a bunch of bodies laid out in rows and stuff, and they see a big fire. I thought, oh, he's cremating the dead. Okay, that makes sense. I guess he's a doctor, sterility, whatever.
And it is what he's doing, but he takes it to another level beyond that.
Yeah, I don't know if that counts as cremating, boiling them and collecting the bones. It's really grim. Like, he's making the gnarliest stew out of that stream of all time.
Yeah, you don't want to be downstream from the temple or the bone temple. Upstream is probably okay.
Yeah, and so they meet him, and he's at this point there isn't a backlog of bodies to handle. Yeah, the work's been done.
Yeah. We have brushed over one of the key moments though, and that's the baby being born.
Oh yeah, that's true,
because that's what precipitates them meeting the doctor. Is they hook up with Eric, who is understandably grumpy about carrying this woman, but ultimately, for all his complaining, does nothing but right by these people.
Yeah, he's a shit talker who does the right thing. So if you ignore everything he says and judge him purely on his actions, he's a saint.
He met these two, and
he saved them. He carried this woman for miles and miles.
Yeah,
but he just complained the whole time.
He complains a lot, but he's doing the right thing.
And I identify with that because complaining is my love language.
Yeah, it's sometimes it helps do the shitty thing if you get to complain about it.
Yeah,
if you have to do it and pretend like you're enjoying it, then that's another kind of dishonesty. But if you get to be like, it sucks carrying your crazy mom, kid, like, why don't you carry her sometimes? Like that stuff, like, yeah, that's relatable. That's understandable. It does suck.
Yeah.
But the mom, after they've had a bit of a break, she has a moment of clarity where her cognition kind of comes back in a big way. And she has been in and out. She's been sort of slipping through time. She's been talking to her dead father, which generally means someone's within weeks of passing away when they start seeing dead relatives and stuff. That's a documented thing that happens. She hears a woman crying in this train. Not crying is not the right word. Moaning, screaming.
She's in pain.
The woman in pain, and she just beelines for it. And we find the pregnant infected woman that we saw earlier delivering a baby in this train car, and she helps.
Yeah, she kind of helps her and walks her through it and holds her hand.
Yeah, which she probably has done in the village. That's, midwifery is a thing that would be a big deal in a sort of the medieval setting. And she helps, pinch off the umbilical cord and have Spike cut it. And her and this infected woman have this really interesting, tender moment with each other where, like, they understand each other on this purely mother-to-mother sort of level until after the baby is born, and she kind of snaps back to being feral.
And then she goes rage virus again. Just rah!
And that's when Eric shoots her, and he wants to shoot the baby because...
it's an infected baby, he thinks.
Yeah, but the baby is not infected. But regardless, Eric thinks it's a bad idea to have them breeding.
I agree with Eric.
Yeah, but there's nothing... One baby is not going to...
No, it's not going to change the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even get the chance to do it because Dad shows up.
Yeah, the baby's dad shows up. The alpha, the 7-foot tall monster of an alpha that's called Samson by the doctor.
Yeah, which is the second alpha we've seen, and the first one was terrifying. This one is bigger than the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's chasing them, and he's absolutely frightening. And he ends up getting Eric.
Yeah, he pulls Eric's head off, and I had a video game moment of grab that gun. Like,
absolutely. I was like, why is Spike not grabbing the gun? What the hell, Spike?
Yeah.
But then I had to think about it. Spike's never messed with a gun.
No.
He doesn't even know how to operate it.
Yeah, he hasn't played video games. He hasn't. Yeah,
yeah. There are no guns in the village.
Yeah, he doesn't realize the value of that. I just thought video game logic, because there is a certain video gaminess to the way the story is told.
A little bit.
That's a important item that you should grab. But in a game, if Samson gets you, you're like, oh, respawn, try that again. It's like, because when I have to fight Samson later, I'm going to want to have that gun.
Absolutely.
That's how you think. But no, they do the reasonable thing and just book it out of there with the baby.
Yes.
And that's when they finally get to the doctor.
Yeah, and mom is kind of, once she gets a hold of the baby, she's kind of more lucid.
Yeah. Yeah, she basically, she has been very with it until they stopped for their little picnic or whatever. Or that's when she kind of snapped back to reality and was like, this guy's being a dick to you. And Spike is like, that's Eric. He saved us. And she's like, he's a dick. I can tell.
I know a dick when I see one.
Yeah. And then from then on out, she's like with it for the whole rest of her story.
Yeah. And her name is Isla, and they end up naming the baby Isla.
Right.
And it's kind of sweet, like, because the doctor, they make it to the doctor. He explains what he's been doing and all this stuff, how he's not crazy. It's all logical, and he helps them with the baby, and he does a full, like, a physical and examination and all this stuff on Isla. And he basically says, you've got cancer. It was either in your lymph nodes and it spread to your brain, or the other way.
Yeah, or the other way around.
But either way, you have cancer. And Spike's like, but she's going to get better, right?
Yeah, you can help her.
And mom and the doc are like, no.
Yeah, and it's just some beautiful, beautiful acting in this whole sequence here. But between it's a three.
Ralph is really good.
Yeah, Ralph is really good. Isla is really good. They're all just incredible because there's so much nonverbal communication between the two adults. Because without saying,
they're like, who's gonna tell him?
Yeah, and without saying anything, she asks for a death with dignity sort of thing. Right?
Yeah.
And because the doctor looks like he's got his little dart gun of morphine that he uses to trank infected when they come around his bone temple.
Yeah, so he can add them to the bone temple.
Yeah, well, no, crucially, he doesn't hurt them.
No, he euthanizes them.
No, he doesn't even do that, I don't think.
He didn't euthanize Samson or anything. Yeah.
No, he just drugged him and took Eric's skull away from him and
added Eric to the pile.
Yeah. But he kind of looks at her like, are we doing this? And she's like, yeah, let's do this while I have control of this. And it's all nonverbal.
She gets a proper goodbye scene with her son. Pretty heavy.
This shit's hard, man.
Yeah.
This shit is hard. This whole part of the movie is heavy. Like, I didn't cry when we were in the theater. I have cried, like, welled up thinking about it since then. And it's like,
it's a tough situation. I've talked to a few people who saw this movie, and the one of the people that I talked to had, is a middle-aged guy who's lost his mother. I too am a middle-aged guy that's lost his mother, and it hit really hard for those of us who have lost our mother.
For real.
And so, it was like a tough scene, but he got to say goodbye. They didn't truly say goodbye, but it was understood. No. It was nonverbal, and it was good acting.
Yeah, she just held him, because first thing is the doctor drugs him, not with a knockout.
Just kind of makes him sleepy time.
Yeah. And then he does the mom and does his whole process on her. And she does say, she doesn't say the word. She just tells tells him how much she loves him.
Yeah.
And then when it's all over, the doctor presents the skull to Spike, and Spike climbs up to the top of the bone temple and puts it up there facing the sea and facing their island.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it's pretty dark, though. Like, I don't know, man. Oh, great. You just boiled my mom.
but
Sick.
it's what happens to all of us. There is no getting away. There's no escaping death.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they talk about memento mori.
Yeah.
Remember death. Remember, we're all going to die.
Yeah, and then he says, memento amore, remember love, and like in the middle or toward the latter third of this zombie movie, it becomes this whole thing about dead moms, and it's like, oh god,
and then Spike has a baby,
and then Spike has this baby that
and he's 12,
a 7-foot tall psychopath wants the baby back, and he needs to get this baby somewhere safe.
So he just trucks on home.
Yeah,
like he goes back to the island, but notably, he doesn't go in. Mm-mm. He just leaves the baby in a shopping basket with a letter to his dad.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a walkabout. I'm going to go discover myself. That's not what he says, but that's what he says.
That's what he says. He has gone out. This whole thing, he wanted to go so far inland that he couldn't see the sea anymore.
Yeah.
And what he's discovered is there's just so much more out there than what he was ever told about.
Oh, yeah.
And he's not done finding out about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just not ready to go back. And so we do we're going a full plot.
It's okay, because it's a hot take.
Yeah.
We're not really dissecting it.
We do another 28 days later, and we jump to Spike out on the road.
Cooking a fish.
And he gets bushwhacked by some infected that they end up taking his fish, and they're chasing him, and he pops off a couple of them. He's gotten over the jitters, and now he can headshot with the best of them.
Oh, yeah.
And
I always like using bows in games like that.
Yeah, it's good because it's quiet.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and he gets kind of to this roadblock that's set up, and he's posting up, and he's going to take shots at him, but they will overwhelm him. It's kind of more than he can handle on his own. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly, the Jimmies show up.
Yeah.
And we get another wild tonal shift for the last few minutes of this movie.
So they're a bunch of, they all have, mullets, and they're wearing ostentatious, chains and rings.
And tracksuits.
And colored tracksuits, different colors.
Right.
And they're doing martial arts from a Hong Kong flick.
Yeah.
It's not realistic zombie killing. This is just crazy flips and twirls and the whole deal.
Yes. And so we figure out through context, this is the little boy from the prologue that we met, that Jimmy. This is because we see his crucifix that his dad gave him.
Notably, the cross is upside down now.
Because he has... the last thing we saw in the prologue, which we just sort of brushed over.
Yeah, it was a typical Ice Monster prologue.
Yeah. He says, he does the "Why have you forsaken me?" yelling at God thing. And so when we see him and he's wearing the crucifix inverted, you're like, oh yeah, God turned his back on him, and now he's turned his back on God. His father was a Anglican minister, and he's the opposite of this.
Yeah.
Something that I think was lost on us as non-British people is they are dressed very much like the late Jimmy Savile, who is a disgraced television host. Mm-hmm. And I think the best way to, as an American, to imagine would be if they were called the Cosbys. And they're all wearing Cosby sweaters. He's someone who was once beloved and then...
was a sexual predator.
Was a habitual sexual predator for decades, and it was covered up. And it was sort of a known secret in the entertainment industry.
Like Cosby.
Yeah, exactly. But if time stopped for you in 2002 and you're just a little kid that knew this guy from TV, he's just a weird guy that you could pattern your look after, and you don't know anything about that stuff. And so, but it is sort of like, because you said calling them chavs, and I was thinking sort of football casuals, but it did seem like the tracksuits and everything felt very British hooligan culture. So I didn't catch the Savile reference. That's come from British podcasts I listen to.
Yeah, so it really went from being like, okay, you have this really wrenching scene with Spike and his mother and the doctor, and then Spike delivers the baby to the thing, and we get a scene with Jamie screaming and like, like,
he wants to go get his son, but it's high tide and he can't cross the causeway.
He's so sad. He misses his son, and his wife is gone, blah, blah, blah. And all of this stuff. We have this gut-wrenching thing, and then 28 days later, and we see Spike's doing it. He's surviving on the road, out in the world. He's made it 4 weeks.
Still grim.
And then we see, and it's like, oh no, he's getting overwhelmed. And then boom, like this, like a white trash Power Ranger troop starts doing kung fu.
I'm glad you said Power Rangers, because that is the other
because they're all different colored tracksuits.
They're a team of Power Rangers, because it's these kids that their last memories are from television in the Y2K era.
Yeah, so like, and then and it's not realistic. It's crazy time. It's like movie stuff from
they're doing backflips.
Yeah, like, and crazy super elaborate kill methods,
sawing heads off.
Yeah, like with a rope and crazy, I don't know, just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And so the tonal shift, it just jarred me so much. I was like, what even am I seeing? Because
the music too, because it's very. We talked about the original score being kind of based off of Trail of the Dead, but Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Yeah.
And it's very atmospheric and building. It shifts into like nu metal when these guys show up. It's like System of a Down or something like that. Like good nu metal, but still nu metal.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard any music with lyrics.
Not since the prologue, basically.
Yeah. And it's like crazy. It just feels so crazy.
Yeah, and so it's absolutely jarring. And the thing is like, I really liked Shaun of the Dead, and that that's a comedy zombie movie. Yeah. It has moments of darkness, but also moments of absolute silliness. This felt very Shaun of the Dead. It's Shaun of the Dead outro, but trashier.
Yeah.
Not as funny and just weirder, I guess. Yeah. And so that just like...
You're like, what the fuck?
I was like, holy shit. And so that's kind of the plot.
That was...
We don't normally do a plot walkthrough, but on a hot take...
I think it's because we're still processing the movie. I explained the whole movie to Lisa like this when I got home. Or no, the next morning, because we got home late.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, basically just told her everything that happened in the movie, because it has just like stuck with me. I have been going over the events of this movie in my head. It. Yeah.
So, I mean, some of the things, like, let's talk about some of the visual stuff. Okay. I liked how they got super raw. I liked how they added it. They used the iPhone footage. I like how things got really, really grim and dark, and sometimes it felt like you had like an over the shoulder cam.
Yeah.
And it just got really tense. I liked that visual aesthetic.
Yeah. So this is returning cinematographer from the first film, Anthony Dobb Mantle, who they picked him the first time because he was at the time like one of the best people for digital video, which was a new thing. And it's 25 years later, and
everything's digital.
Everything is digital, and he has kept up with it. He's still a great cinematographer.
Yeah.
And they're shooting on iPhones. They're doing, like, I don't know if you've seen any of the behind the scenes pictures. They have their they call it poor man bullet time, where they've got 20 iPhones in like a half circle.
No, I haven't seen that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, to do the sort of Matrix effects. But Whereas Matrix is doing it with the best cameras available. They're doing it on iPhones. And so it's a bit glitchier.
Yeah.
Even though an iPhone is a million times better than the digital video cameras that they were using in the first film, an iPhone is still not the top of the line for capturing.
No.
Video. Yeah. And so there's glitches and lags and things that make it weird and wonky and jarring. And they do stuff with frame rates, where they did this in the first film too. When people are sort of raging out, it goes into the same frame rate that they show the infected with.
Yeah.
Because there's that moment where Spike pulls the knife on his dad when he's mad.
Yeah.
And Jamie takes the knife from him, and then his hand starts vibrating in that frame rate, like the same way they shoot the infected.
Yeah.
And then he calms down and gives the knife back to him. And so people sometimes act like the infected, and the infected sometimes act like people.
Yeah.
And that's all, that's down to the cinematographer doing all that stuff.
And I was going to call out what I would call experimental editing. There's some crazy overlaying of historical war parades, Henry V, all sorts of stuff added in, seemingly random, okay, there's more elk herds running by. Oh, okay, there's more infected stuff. Okay, the weather.
Yeah.
Okay, it feels frantic. It's weird. The editing comes at you.
The editor is John Harris, and I would. It's an art. It's very art house. It's very much a vibes movie a lot of the time. And I'm all about that. That is my jam. It's ooh, we're getting arty with this. We're making weird statements and cutting stuff in.
So I like weird, cool, moody, crazy stuff like that. But I didn't really appreciate the historical footage, the war parades and the Henry V stuff, because I felt like it was too obvious. The symbolism, it was not subtle enough. I would prefer that we have to draw a conclusion rather than have a conclusion handed to us.
Yeah, that's fair, because it is, for the most part, a show don't tell sort of film. I don't know that stuff happens as often as you feel like it does. I think it really just happens when they're crossing the causeway, both ways. When they're leaving, you get the sort of soldiers marching to war footage, and when they're coming back, you're getting the archers firing footage.
Yeah.
And that's paralleling them shooting at the alpha that's chasing them. But when you're kind of picking out the pieces in your head, it feels like, God, they're really banging me over the head with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just to put it simply, it's a movie should say shave and a haircut, and I should say 2 bits.
Right.
They shouldn't run at me screaming 2 bits.
That's funny. Yeah, I could see that. Production and costume design are by Carson McCall and Gareth Pugh, and art direction by Paul Giordani. There's really well-considered stuff in there in the costume design and the production design. They
got the same prosthetic person as Count Orlok.
For the dong. Yeah. Oh. So here's a little funny bit of trivia, because this was in an interview with Danny Boyle. Obviously, they've got a minor on set, right?
Yeah.
They've got a 12-year-old. He turned 13 while they were filming the movie. So it really was his bar mitzvah coming of age for IRL too.
Yeah.
You can't have naked people around a minor.
Yeah.
It's actually a crime in the UK. And so it's all prosthetic bits.
Sure.
So you can have a 12-year-old boy chased by a guy with a prosthetic latex dong, but you couldn't have Samson really raw donging out there. That would be a sex crime, but the rubber one's okay.
perfect logic.
Yeah, it just makes total sense. Not traumatic at all. This kid is very safe. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about the visuals. It's
I mean, I think we kind of covered it when we were talking a lot about the story. If we're talking about audio, Young Fathers composed this, which is I had no idea who that is. They're a Scottish progressive hip hop group from Edinburgh, and it's weird because there's not a lot of hip hop in here. There are a couple of moments where they drop a beat, but ultimately it's like scored for 80% of the movie, 90% of the movie. The prologue,
a good vibe score.
Yeah, the prologue and the outro have modernish music, and I think that's intentional because they're tonal shifts.
Right.
And I thought it was pretty good. Like I generally, I really liked 28 Days Later. I thought the score on that was superb.
Yeah. And they used John Murphy's theme from that movie at several key moments. Like when John Murphy's theme drops in, you know something heavy is happening.
But we didn't get any Godspeed You Black Emperor.
No, they did not come.
That would have been cooler.
It would have been. I like them. They're good. But Young Fathers, I think their score was really good. And then the sound design was by Maximilian Behrens and Brendan Feeney. The sound design is really good too. Like they do good things with like using silence, and then like the slow lows, the big fat infected that crawl around on the ground, squeal like pigs, and it seemed like
they kind of look like pigs, and
and root in the mud like pigs, like and when they started squealing, I was like, I'm a little bit of a farm boy. I think that was a real pig squeal that they're dropping in there.
Not a Lorna Shore pig squeal.
It wasn't Will Ramos. It was, like, or, maybe it is. Maybe it is someone doing a pig sound, but it sounded really like a stuck pig squealing. And that was just really effective at doing in the moment kind of what you want, which is dehumanizing the infected. But then you snap back and you rehumanize them too, and give them less animalistic sounds. And so I just thought it was very well executed and well considered sound design.
Absolutely. So let's get into the performances.
Okay.
I will Alfie Williams as Spike. I notoriously don't like kids in movies because almost always they suck.
Yeah.
He didn't suck.
No,
he was really good.
He fairly ruled.
So it almost feels like if there are movies like this where the kid lead is really good, or like Interview with the Vampire.
Oh yeah.
Where Claudia is an amazing character and Kirsten Dunst is awesome.
Crazy performance.
Or you get just like a trash bag of a performance where a kid is just so transparent. Like this was so good. They found a good one.
Yeah, and he does not have, I don't think it's his very first credit, but I think it's his first feature film. I don't think he's done a lot.
Yeah.
And they really have hidden that he's the lead of this trilogy.
Yeah.
It's not.
This is, you think it's about Jamie, his dad, but really it's about Spike.
Yeah.
This whole movie is about Spike.
Yeah. I expected Jamie to die. I really thought Jamie was going to die.
He'll die in the next one. You know he will.
Yeah, maybe. Probably. Yeah, that is just sort of how these things
He'll
go.
get his head ripped off.
Ooh. Oh, man. I'm pretty sad. You bummed me out. That's very plausible. Samson gets a hold of him and pulls the head right off.
Oh, yeah.
That's Samson, man. What a fucker. Actually, justice for Samson. He had his woman killed.
Yeah, he didn't do anything wrong.
And his baby stolen. But before we get to Samson, Jodie Comer is who I have up next as Isla. Yeah. As Isla. She's always great, but this is a tough performance because she plays that character at many different cognitive levels. Yeah,
the first half of the movie is really hard to watch with her. Her scenes are really tough because she is not doing well. She's a terminal cancer patient with no medical care or medicine.
Yeah. And she's playing. I mean, it's not the same thing as dementia, but
not really.
She starts kind of coming back to herself as she's seeing things that she remembers from her childhood, which is something that happens with like dementia patients. Because those old memories are intact. It's a lot of times it's the new ones that are not sticking around.
Yeah.
And so she, we go on this whole sort of cognitive journey with her over the course of the movie as she becomes more and more lucid as we go deeper into the country.
Yeah.
And yeah, heavy lifting and just, yeah, powerhouse performance.
It is really good.
Real tearjerker, Jodie Comer.
And we have Aaron Taylor Johnson as Jamie, who's Isla's husband, Spike's dad.
Yeah.
He's kind of a big deal warrior guy. He kind of is a flawed dude. He tries to be a good dad, but he's not a great dad. He's not terrible.
He's doing his damn best.
In the apocalypse,
Yeah, he's trying to make a kid that will survive, and he's got a bit of a soft boy. Not that Spike is weak or that Spike is incapable in any way, but he's emotional and he's sensitive.
He's kind of a mama's boy to start off with.
Yeah, and Jamie is trying to kind of harden him and push him past that.
Yeah, just toughen him up.
Yeah. Yeah, great performance. And, Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's very good at doing this, at being a kind of greasy roughneck guy. It sort of seems to be his lane. He's found it late in his career, but he's good at it.
Yeah,
or not late. He's a young man. He's not late. In his
he
career.
was in Kraven the Hunter, Nosferatu, Fall Guy, Bullet Train. He's got a lot of credits.
He is great in Bullet Train for sure. He's so good in that. Don't sleep on Bullet Train. Bullet Train kind of bombed, but that's a fun movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Directed by David Leitch, co-director of the original John Wick.
Oh, that's probably pretty good.
Yeah, it's fun. Ralph, or Ray Fiennes as Dr. Ian Kelson. I love this character so much.
Yeah, he is a complex man. This is just a powerful performance. Like he is a deep well of emotional strength.
Yeah, when we first encounter him, when he drugs Samson and rescues them, and he's bright orange.
He's covered in iodine. He's dyed his skin.
Yeah, he goes, I paint myself with iodine as a prophylactic. The virus doesn't like it. And you're like, oh, okay. He's become a witch doctor. Essentially, the in this regression of society.
He's like a shaman.
Yes, he has become like the person who deals with the death, all of the death.
Yes.
And it is, and the next movie is called Bone Temple, so I assume he's coming back in the next movie as well.
Yeah.
Although his part in Spike's story feels complete, like he's done his Obi-Wan for him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and the next one is about Chav Power Rangers, so who gives a shit?
I think it's got to be about more than that. But even if it wasn't, I would still watch that.
Those are the biggest roles. I mean, and then there's like Edvin Riding, who played Eric Sundqvist. I think that's how you say it. The Swedish soldier.
He's fun.
That was fun. I think he played a douchebag really well, who was not actually a bad dude.
Yeah.
He was just cynical.
Yeah. Someone understandably unhappy with his lot in life, which was I got stuck on Zombie Island. He used the Z word for the first time in this franchise. He said, "She's a fucking zombie," like he just says it. And I was like, "Oh, it's official now. Like we can say it, and we're not even breaking lore."
I think that the director you have to go with it at this point.
Yeah.
It's considered a zombie movie.
Yeah, it's considered one of the zombie movies.
Yeah, it's one of the best ones.
Yeah.
I think that was a good performance. There's the guy who played Samson, which is Chi Lewis Perry.
Yeah, I guess he is a former MMA fighter. Turned actor. He was also in Danny Boyle's biopic series on FX from a year or two ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think in British mixed martial arts, like he's a big deal in a small pond sort of fighter. Obviously, he's not someone that you're aware of, and you're fairly aware of UFC stuff. But it's an incredible physical performance. He is an intimidating specimen.
Yeah, he does a good job acting in this movie.
Yeah, and no dialogue, just screaming.
Yeah, lots of screaming, lots of mad dogging people.
And running hard. Rips the head off an elk and sticks it up in a tree.
Yeah, it is a good performance.
Rips the head off a Swede who just... I knew Eric was cooked when he said... Because he was asking Spike about... He calls them berserkers.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm a Viking. Maybe I'll turn into one of them. And I was like, oh, you're dead. Like, that was...
You're not even going to get infected.
You're not going to get infected. Like, that's the words of someone who's going to die in this movie.
Yeah, because nobody is a Viking. It's a profession.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Sam. Christopher Fulford is Sam, who's Jamie's friend and the Fletcher on the island that teaches the kids archery.
He's a good old guy.
He's a good old bird. Old chap. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I liked him. I thought he was a good dude. Like, he's the type of guy you want to be friend of the family.
Yeah.
Like, while they're off partying, he's at their house making sure that Isla doesn't need anything.
Yeah. And if she has an episode or whatever, he's there to help her out. I guess that we should mention Jack O'Connell as Sir Jimmy Crystal, who is the cult leader of the Jimmies. I've always loved this guy. Going back to when he was on Skins back in the early 2000s. I've always thought he was a great actor, and he's really having a moment now with Sinners. And then he's third billed in the credits on this movie, and he only shows up for like the last few seconds.
Yeah, I thought that he was pretty good. I mean, he was only there for a scene, barely half a scene.
I'm super intrigued, though. I know.
I will watch the next one.
Yeah, I can tell you're more put off by their shenanigans at the end, but I was like, where the hell do you go from here? Like, this totally worked on me. Everyone else is people without lines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Randos.
So we're to our wrap up. So I'm going to ask you what your personal highlight was.
So like I said, I really liked the first part of, like, after the prologue, that first chapter where they leave the island and go to the mainland with Jamie and Spike. But that's a big part of the movie. So just to narrow it down, the flight back when they're fleeing from the Alpha and they get to the causeway and they're running across and they're screaming and he's blowing the whistle and the Alpha's following them and there's arrows coming and that was just a super intense scene. I thought it was really awesome. That was probably my favorite part of the movie. I had a really hard time between that part and the part with old Ralph, who did just such a hell of a good job as the doctor in the temple. But I'm gonna go with the Jamie and Spike fleeing from the Alpha. That was probably my favorite part. Yeah,
that is a great scene and it's gorgeous. It's an interesting one because that one is a composite because in the UK they have good laws protecting child actors and you can't film in the middle of the night with minors. They've changed that. It's not, we're no longer in the Taxi Driver days where you have little Jodie Foster out there in the middle of the night. So them running on the causeway is in a studio, and then the night sky was filmed at an observatory where there's no ambient light to interfere with it. That's how they're getting the northern lights. And so that sort of unpolluted night sky with them running across the causeway is just fucking gorgeous.
It's a really great scene.
Really beautiful. And has real peril to it because you don't see any shots in the trailers with Aaron Taylor Johnson's character that seem to take place after this moment.
Yeah.
So I was 100% sure he was going to die out there.
Oh, man.
And so I really was like, I knew Spike would make it, but I thought for sure we would lose Jamie. And so that they both made it and they managed to harpoon the alpha.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh God, that's a relief. Like, so that, yes.
So what about you? What was your personal
my
highlight?
personal highlight, I'm going to go sentimental. It's Spike climbing the bone temple to put his mother's skull up on the top. It's really that whole sequence, like her whole death with Diggity sequence. It's fucking hard. Like it goes so hard. And like, you know, it's a mirror of an earlier scene where he gave Eric's skull to Spike, and he says, find a place for it. And he finds a good place for it because Eric saved his life.
It's near the bottom, but it's a nice, good spot.
Yeah, and it's like he doesn't have a deep connection to this guy. He has an intense connection, but it's short-lived.
Yeah.
For his mother, like nothing will do but the top.
Yeah.
And so he climbs this tower of bones to place it up there. And it's beautiful and it's sad, and you know, you're welling up, and it's like, God damn, I didn't expect this out of this movie. Like this movie would go here.
I did not expect it to be an emotional journey of a movie.
Yeah. And so to me, that's it's weird to call that the highlight because it's not a fist pumping like killer moment.
It's just a sad moment.
It's just a really sad and beautiful moment. So what worked for you?
I really liked how they expanded the lore, how, you know, they expanded on what are the infected doing, how are they evolving. I love how they shed light on, you know, how the world views Britain, how it's fully quarantined, and how life is moving on out there. There's still the internet. The guy says he's, you know, a delivery driver for Amazon or whatever.
Yeah, his buddy. I should have been a delivery driver.
Yeah, and so like it's like nothing is different than our society, but here they are living in like a feudal zombie apocalypse in the same world. I thought that was just really crazy. They're choosing not to rescue the healthy people who live on this island that they know live on this island because they have massive surveillance.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's too risky because the virus could get off.
And then I also really liked, I mentioned it kind of right at the beginning of the podcast, that this is not a story about zombies. This is a story about people. There are also zombies.
Yeah.
And I think that made it interesting. It made me invest. It made me care about Jamie, care about Spike, care about Isla, even Eric.
Pour one out for poor Eric.
Yeah.
I love Eric.
He tried his best. And so, that's what really worked. The lore and the fact that this is a human story. This is not a zombie story. So what worked for you?
Similar, but not quite the exact same things. The thematics. I love all the different allegories. Like, there's so much going on. Like what it's saying about grief and about parents and the sort of how the ways that parents step up and the ways that parents fall down. The stuff it's saying about Brexit and MAGA and bro culture with the alphas, like you know, they should have found an alpha that looked like Joe Rogan, and they could have put a bunch of other podcasters running around with him out there.
Yeah, they should have just called them bros, but I guess alpha works.
Yeah, but that's what those guys all want to be, is alphas, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of using that language. Or you know who Samson reminded me of specifically is like that caveman diet guy.
Oh, Liver King?
Yes. He looks like him, right?
Yeah, who got arrested for terrorist threats against Joe Rogan.
Yes, so
nothing better than douchebag on douchebag nonsense. It's like Musk versus Trump having a slap fight. I love it.
Yeah, so the alphas are this sort of idealized, like that's the perfect man, right? By these people's standards, they're living a natural life, bathing in the creek and pulling off heads and whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, the thematics are strong. The performances are crazy. I think there's some. I think we should probably talk about some best supporting actors and best supporting actresses in this movie come Oscar season.
They won't.
They won't because the Academy hates horror movies. And the music and sound design was on point. I haven't had a chance to really sit with the score yet because it just hasn't been enough days. But I liked the music a lot, and I'm looking forward to digging into that album and listening to it.
Yeah.
What didn't work for you? I have an idea.
I mean, the story is way too simple. There's this is I mean, at the heart of this, it's about a boy who has a complicated relationship with his dad, and then his mom dies, and that's the whole story. It's really very, very simplistic. It's kind of a travel log. But it's not all that interesting of a travel log because it's so simple. And really, if you took out all of the cuts of footage that were, clips from movies or whatever, or clips of the elk, or clips of the infected doing their thing, you've got about 48 minutes worth of film of actual story here. Okay. We got a lot of stargazing and a lot of looking at the fire and a lot of, you get a lot of navel gazing going on in this movie. And just big vibes and fine, but don't waste my time. give me more story. This story was too simple. There could have been a lot more going on here. And I will say the tonal shift at the end was just, I'm trying to think of a worse ending. Maybe 28 Days Later was a worse ending than
it
this.
actually had a different tonal shift at its end, though, where it had the hopeful ending.
Yeah, well, and I don't know. I hated the Jimmies. They really ruined it. And the thing is, I want to see a movie about the Jimmies, but I don't want it in this movie about a boy with his dead mother's skull, putting her on the top of the skull tower and having this, I need to go out and be myself before I come back and come to terms with you, Dad, and blah, blah, blah. Like, and then, like, what happens to Isla, the baby? Like, and whatever happens with the doctor? Like, there's so many questions I have, and it's just like, it makes me think, it makes me wonder, it makes me care. And then we have the fucking Jimmies doing their stupid Power Ranger kung fu with stupid improvised weapons. He's got like a grill, and he's got like shitty rings and chains, and they like pose and do all this stuff in unison. And I'm just like, I'm for silliness. I like silly, stupid shit. Like, I love Dumb and Dumber. But don't tack it on to a serious, my mom died movie.
It is wild.
It's just not appropriate. It's absolutely wrong.
It is seconds after we have his voiceover of his letter, where he's explaining what he's doing, and it's very poignant, and we see Jamie runs out and is like pounding his fists against the sea in futility.
He's like, he has this big moment, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And then we get 28 days later, and we see the boy on the roadside, and he's cooking a fish, and he's looking well. Yeah. And I'm like,
he's healthy.
Okay.
He's thriving out there.
This is cool. And then it's a zombie attack, and we're like, oh shit. And then it becomes a comedy movie. Yeah.
And the music really bangs that home.
Yeah, it's like you almost get a record scratch.
Yeah.
You're like,
we've heard no real contemporary music, and the new metal comes in, and you're like, the fuck is happening?
And so my last bullet point on what didn't work for me, don't spoon feed me symbolism. Don't tell me, don't tell me and show me, show me or tell me, preferably show me and let me figure it out. But in in general, this feels like really they just took a shovelful and piled it on us. Here you go, and I'm going to explain it too. It's like, thanks, guys.
Okay.
So what about you? What didn't work for you?
Well, I don't really need to say some of the stuff that I have written here because you covered it. And it actually, I don't bump up against it in the same way that you do. But I understand that the tonal shifts because, like I said, it's got 4 segments, prologue and epilogue, and then 2 distinct halves. And each one of them is sort of painting with a different palette. And that is, it's a lot to expect from an audience to kind of ride with that many tonal shifts. It makes it hard for people to stay connected to the material because it feels so different. I'm sort of like a weirdo and I get kind of excited by all of that stuff. Like I find that stimulating, but I understand why that is jarring or unpleasant to you or to a lot of people. Because when I watch something like that, what I think is, oh, David would hate this. Like that's the kind of the bar that I have in the back of my mind.
It's like listening to music and the songwriter was like, I'm going to do the interlude in 6/7 time. And you're like, why, bro? The rest of the song is in 4/4 and it's good.
Yeah.
I gotta, because I'm gonna flex.
Yeah.
Because I can.
Yeah.
Because this is who I am. It's like, dude, serve the song. Don't serve yourself.
Okay.
And that's sort of what I feel like
that's how it makes you feel. Yeah. So I get that. And then the other thing is something you already said. I think maybe there's a little too much of the archival footage. I think like the second time that they showed us the archers, I got it on the first one.
Yeah.
I didn't need the second one.
I'd almost rather it just be like subliminal, like really short.
Just flashes of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just sort of seemed like it's not egregious. It's just a little bit like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like you just have that feeling like enough of that. I get it. So that's a criticism. Final thoughts and rating. I'm very curious to hear this.
Okay, so I went back and forth on this because for me, I mean, a 5-star movie is basically a perfect film, you know, with maybe 1 or 2 little things, but generally speaking, it needs to be absolutely superb. I consider a 4-star to be an unqualified recommend, meaning I would recommend that anybody or everybody, you know, age range notwithstanding.
Yeah.
Everybody should see this movie is a 4. A 3 is a recommendation for a specific subset of people. 2 would be only see this if you very specifically like this, and then 1, don't see this.
Yeah.
I can't give this a 4 because I don't think most people would like this. I think some people would like this. If you're into zombie movies, if you ever watched The Walking Dead and really liked it, which was a lot of people, if you like horror in general, you'll probably like this. But I have lots of friends who would not like this.
Yeah.
And so that to me means it's a 3. I think it tries to be an art film, but the arty elements of this film are not what makes it good. The performances and the human factor are what make it good.
Okay.
The arty parts of it make it worse. It would have been better if it was just a gritty ass story about Jamie, Spike, and Isla and the doctor. Give me that.
Like The Road.
It doesn't have to be exactly like The Road, but The Road is a better movie than this. So, I mean,
I should watch The Road. I've never seen
we
that.
should do The Road because it's dope. And Cormac McCarthy wrote the book, and it's a masterpiece. We could even read that beforehand.
Okay, good
Let's
to know.
slot it in.
All right, we'll figure that out.
All right, so I gave it a 3-star. What about you? You probably gave it a 5, right?
I'm very close. I'm very close to giving it a 5, and I suspect over time, especially if they nail it on the following 2 movies, and this becomes the first of an epic trilogy, I think this will creep up to a 5. But right now, I'm at the strong 4, because it just like, as of right now on one viewing, I feel like a 4. But I think it's I think this is a very good movie.
So I think for people like you and I, this is for us.
Yeah.
Because we like cinema and we like horror.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is for everybody.
Yeah, I don't care about everybody. That's just not even in my, like...
That's true.
Yeah. I just think, how well did you do the thing that you were doing? And I think this is just a very interesting... This is what I'm into. I'm into auteur-driven genre movies. Like, where it is a movie with a strong sense of authorial voice... but using the trappings of the so-called lowbrow genres that I like.
The dweebier, the better.
Yeah. So if you can make an arty zombie movie or arty superhero movie, whatever it is, I'm going to love that. I'm going to love your Matt Reeves Batman, and I'm going to love your Danny Boyle Zombie 28, whatever's later movies.
Yeah. What's the next one going to be called? Like 28?
28 Days Later, The Bone Temple. Or no, 28 years later, The Bone Temple is what the next one's called.
Okay, that doesn't roll off. 28 Bones Later.
28 Bones Later. It's still 28 years later. It has not been any more time. It's only been a month.
28 years, 28 days, 28 hours, and 28 minutes.
Yeah.
Or, whatever.
You just call it Bone Temple. So what will happen is, retroactively, like Star Wars... This one will get a subtitle that will be applied later on the DVD releases, and we'll have probably Holy Island, Bone Temple, and then whatever the third one.
I mean, come on. It's the Bone Temple, and we have the Rage virus. It's the Raging Boner.
That's what this one should have been called, Bone Temple. The next one should have been called Raging Boner.
Oh, all right. So let's take a quick break, roll the music, and then we'll come back with the Vault of Darkness.
Before we delve into the Vault of Darkness, we ask that all initiates of the cult follow us on your favorite social media platforms at Nightshade Cult.
If you've enjoyed this content, help us grow the cult by sharing it with like-minded people and leave us a review wherever you listen. Also, like, subscribe, and comment. That helps us on YouTube.
Yeah. And you guys, a lot of you are doing that.
Yeah,
and
if you made it this far,
yeah.
I mean, it's really easy just to click the thumbs up, even if you don't feel like commenting. But I'm also curious, if you made it this far, what do you think of the Jimmies? Because that's really what took me from a 4 to a 3. If there'd been no Jimmy, no Cult of Jimmy, it was a 4-star movie.
Yeah,
crazy, right?
It is. I think.
Leave us a comment. I want to know.
I think you let little things bother you too much. You gotta let the Jimmies just roll off your back.
But if it's art, you have to consider the whole thing.
Yeah, that's true. But when you consider the whole thing, if like the last few notes of the song or the album, if the rest of the album ruled, you're not gonna. So
imagine you're listening to Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and it's just like, oh man, this is so fucking good. And then it's like right at the end, dun, 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 dun. You're like, fuck off with that.
Yeah, but then it starts over again.
No, they do a locking groove on the vinyl, so it just does that forever. It's just Tony Iommi doing that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of what Fairies Wear Boots is on that album.
It kind of is, actually. It's a joke.
So, anyways, do you have any dark tidings?
I do not.
Then what are you pulling out of the Vault of Darkness?
Okay, this is not really related to zombies or rage or anything, but it is old as fuck.
Okay.
I watched documentary series from 1996, and now I want more. Okay. I just want more. Ken Burns.
Oh, yeah.
The West. That is his 1996 documentary series. It's not his first one. I think it's like his third or fourth. There's like a lot of them now.
There's a lot of Ken Burns documentaries, yeah.
And this is like the more modern ones. I looked at those on his webpage because he has a really good webpage for all of his work. The modern ones are usually like 1 or 2 episodes. This is 8 episodes at 90 minutes apiece. This starts I don't know. It's called The People, and it's talking about native West Coast native tribes and North American, not just West Coast, but everything Louisiana Purchase and West.
Okay.
And then it kind of moves into early explorers. It talks about how the Western tribes had been trading with Chinese and British sailors. Then it goes in the whole deal with the Corps of Discovery. After Louisiana Purchase, the Mormons moving west, the whole mountain man movement and the fur trade, Mexican-American War, the whole conflict there, the decline of the buffalo, cowboys, the railroad and the Chinese immigrant contributions, wars with native tribes and putting them on reservations, the whole deal. If you like history, and I know you do, this is really good. And I really dig it. I'm unabashedly a fan of old stuff. I do reenactment, not of this era, but I'm gonna watch more Ken Burns stuff. Now
that's time well spent. That's not.
Yeah, it is educational. The thing is it's weird how much. Okay, so how do you get this stuff? If you want to watch it, you can become a OPB Passport member, which is that's the native place to find all his work is OPB
or PBS. OPB is just.
I'm sorry, yeah, OPB is our local, but it's pbs.org, and OPB is our local affiliate. And if you pay $60, you get the full meal deal, and you get access to everything for a year. Or I think they give it to you for like $5 or $6 a month at that point.
Well, yeah, and it's wherever you live, you're used to your PBS station doing their membership drives.
Yeah, this is that. You just become a member and you get the whole deal. You can also buy them individual series, documentaries on Amazon, which are not that cheap. They're like $20-$30 for the digital. And if you're going to watch more than one, you might as well just become a PBS member. But there's a hack. It's not an unethical hack. I don't believe in pirating.
VPN and watch it on Netflix in another country?
No, that would be great. I should do that. No. You can just go to Amazon and buy the DVDs. They're like $11 and you get the whole thing.
And then can you stream it too? Or do they
No, you just have the DVD.
I thought you didn't have a DVD. You're playing them on your PlayStation. You're playing them on your PlayStation. Okay, I answered my own question.
Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy that you can buy the DVDs and own the physical media for way cheaper than getting the digital media.
Wow, I'm just so impressed that you bought DVDs. Are they DVDs or Blu-rays?
DVDs.
Okay, they're old. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. This is square. It's not even wide.
Not even widescreen.
It's not even widescreen.
Yeah,
but it's good.
Yeah, he's good.
And so many okay, so I'm a history guy. I'm a history teacher, and I love primary sources. I just have a thing about it. And I absolutely love it when you're hearing tribal elders from these native tribes telling the oral history that they learned from their grandparents and great-grandparents about these events.
Yeah.
There is nothing more compelling than hearing the real deal.
Yeah.
And so it's legit. And since all of this stuff happened post-Industrial Revolution or sort of during it, we have photos of all these people.
Yeah.
It's rad. And we have video. It's like of the later stuff. It's just really cool. Like when the railroads met in the middle, they had it they were live tweeting it via Morse code from the place. And they were reading it out, and they had like celebrations in New York and in San Francisco. It was like crazy. So this sort of thing really just kind of moves me. I love this stuff. So what about you? What are you pulling out of the vault?
That's very cool. I mean, mine is not entirely out of step with that, but it is very different at the same time. So mine is a podcast I've been listening to recently, and it's called Going Rogue.
In Morse code, though.
Yeah.
Right?
I just get it over the wire. She sends me telegrams. Dear listeners, stop. Here's the new episode of Going Rogue. Stop. So anyways, Going Rogue, a podcast about the film industry by Tansy Gardam, who is a podcaster from Australia. And the title and the premise of the podcast is started out as sort of this forensic analysis of the movie Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Oh, wow.
But she has kept going on beyond that. This is a movie that's heavy on people's minds because Andor wrapped up recently.
Yeah.
And she goes into forensic detail, who shot what, at what point does the movie sort of get a little bit taken away from Gareth Edwards, and when does Tony Gilroy step in and start rewriting and ghost directing sequences, and like That's interesting. I think the Rogue One series is like 4 or 5 episodes, and as someone who's deep into this sort of thing, into this film industry, insider baseball stuff, and these sort of geek movies in particular, I'm just fascinated by this stuff. And because it's Disney and Lucasfilm, stuff is fairly well documented, even though they tried to kind of hide some of what was going on. Yeah. There are sources for it, and she kind of does the diligence and gets in there and and finds that stuff out. And I was just like, I binged that series, and then her second series was on Solo, which was the second Star Wars anthology film that also has a troubled production. Yeah. And that's no one's favorite movie, but I was fascinated to listen to that one too. And that one is even more documented. They know exactly who shot what and when. It's all very well recorded, so you can track when that movie got stolen.
Like who ruined it.
It's complicated. It's very complicated. It takes at least 4 episodes of a podcast to explain it. No one ruined it exactly, but just these sort of movie by committee are fascinating projects to me, and so I've just been enamored with this podcast.
That's cool. I mean, something's got to change at the whole Disney Star Wars situation, because like they are more miss than hit with regards to the shows. The movies were just episodes 8 and 9 were not good. Episode 7 was all right.
I love 8. I love that movie a lot. Okay.
Well, I think something's got to change, right?
Yeah.
Especially if there's whole podcasts investigating why it sucks.
Yeah. So, like, particularly with Solo, this one I can boil down a little more easily. Lord and Miller had mostly worked in animation, but they did those 21 Jump Street movies. Mm-hmm. They were running over time because they do a lot of improvising. And so they weren't making their days. So Lucas was concerned about the money, and the writer Larry Kasdan did not like the tone of what they were shooting, and sort of engineered a coup to get the movie taken away from them. But they shot 75% of that movie, and they don't even have I think they're credited as producers on it.
Dang.
So it's brutal and cutthroat, and it's no way to make art, but it makes fascinating subject matter to me.
I wonder if they watched it after it was stolen from them. I don't know if I could.
Probably not. Usually when this sort of thing happens, when directors get pulled off of a movie, they never watch it because it's just too personal. Yeah. Like to have that thing and have someone cut it apart and rejigger it and shoot new content. And
I think there are directors who don't even watch their own movies when they don't agree with the studio edit.
Oh yeah. Oh, you just wipe their hands of it and don't even want to have their name on it. Even Well, that was like
Lynch.
Any interview with David Lynch where he talked about how Dune was his sellout movie because he didn't have Final Cut on it. And after that, he would never make a movie that he didn't have Final Cut on.
Yeah.
Because
he learned.
Yeah. And it's it's interesting. And I think you are correct. I think the Disney machine is killing itself. And Warner Brothers also. The big studios in general are kind of going through this. The streaming wars has been a disaster for everyone. We're paying as much for our streaming services as we did for cable to begin with, and the quality of the content has gone down precipitously.
I saw a meme someone posted that was like, I can't find this show that I want to watch on any of the 14 services I subscribe to, but I could buy it all on its own for $3 from Amazon.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, fuck. I feel that doing this podcast, half the time I have to buy the movie.
Yeah. And like, so when we did 28 Days Later, it was like $2.99 to rent or $3.99 to buy or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, fuck, I buy it, I guess, for $1.
Yeah.
It's a classic. Yeah. It's something has to give in this system, but
no, we give.
We stop giving the money.
Yeah. That's gotta be it.
All right.
We'd like to thank you for joining the Nightshade Cult.
Until we meet again, we're wishing you unpleasant dreams.